Hello, everyone. This is the official welcome to Accounting 6050 here in the MBA program. Accounting Measurement, Reporting, and Control. What a great title. Nobody knows what it means, least of all me. But I'll make up something as we go along. You'll also see me underline and highlight these things in red a lot, just so you make sure you stay focused on the things that I'm trying to communicate. So you won't necessarily be able to read my writing. So I'll try, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, with that, uh, why are you here? I was asked this in an MBA class several years ago, and the answer I came up with on the spot was, why are you here? Well, I think that one of the pieces is you're trying to see old problems in new ways. And so I'm anticipating that the class is going to be made up of people that have kind of a creative mindset. And so with that, I'm hopeful that we always stay focused on seeing old problems in new ways. The next thing is probably one of the biggest things you can take out of the program is making better decisions faster, because we become really methodical. Sometimes we need to move a little quicker and think about things as more of an experiment. That's the classic Google model. Keep experimenting, keep trying to find out something new, and hopefully that keeps you from becoming stagnant and out of touch. And so ultimately, that's where you fit in. And I think that's where I fit in, because I'm going to help you find some new ideas, and I want to help you manage the status quo, because one of the big challenges entrepreneurs have is overcoming the status quo. How do I convince people that it's important to embrace my new idea, my new product, whatever it might be? And so overcoming that status quo is always a huge barrier to almost any creative person. So how do you make an impact? You provide the spark. You provide the spark. Ultimately, it's difficult to do everything, but if you maintain that focus, uh, you have a better shot. So ultimately, the course kind of takes this idea of here's the status quo. I want to create some sort of change. And what's the possibility? What kind of outcome can I expect? And the whole idea of what was once new is now maybe not as new. Our textbook, one of our textbooks, is Draw to Win by my friend Dan Rome. He talks about how to convert ideas into visuals, because that's an easier way to communicate with a wider range of people. So you'll see me use a lot of visuals in this approach. And I've tried to do some in the context of Canvas that makes the course kind of interesting. But as we move along, make sure you let me know if there's something else you'd like to see, because I can certainly try and put it together for you as we adapt and try to meet the needs that you all have, instead of just you listening to me tell you stuff that I might think is important. One other thing about me, you'll notice that I get really particular about the visuals and color. So I just thought you'd find it interesting that I'm a person that will take seriously color palettes, and I focus on this idea of RGB and hex color identification. So just throwing it out there, instead of using the canned colors that you can get in Word, Excel, or PowerPoint. I'm a person that tends to go in and try and find colors that work together, and I'm that kind of annoying person. But my goal in here is to help challenge you to think about yourself, think about how you learn, and then ultimately think about your future. Now you're saying to yourself probably, this is an accounting class? Well, it is, because accounting is one of those things that it can drive behavior. And you may not understand that yet, but I'll certainly try and communicate that what I choose to measure oftentimes will drive the behavior that we create. So anyway, accounting has that kind of impact on organizations and on people. And so ultimately, I want you to think about these three aspects. And when we're done with the class, you can look back and you can say, okay, I learned something about myself. I know a little bit more about how I learn, and think about how I can move forward with the new information that I have. My bottom line is if I don't change students in some way, what's the point in having class? And so I'm going to try and do that in this course, both in a synchronous and asynchronous way. And so that makes it more interesting, and I'm kind of enjoying the challenge trying that because right now I'm set up over here in Austin, Texas, with my wife living with our son. We left New Orleans after COVID initial outbreak back in March. And so I'm working here in the cottage out behind my son's class. But regardless of the context or the situation or where I am, the point is I've got to change you in some way. So that's ultimately the goal. Teaching, I want you to remember, okay, that's me putting you in a position to succeed. Okay. I'm trying to reduce barriers. The learning, however, is your responsibility. I've already learned it. You know, you can't, I can't learn it again for you. I can know where the pitfalls are so I can reduce the barriers to your learning. But at the end of the day, you've got to put in the time. So I'll facilitate it, but you got to help me out. All right. This is my view of the class. If you watched my intro video, you know that I worked a little bit at Second City. This is actually the main stage in Chicago where so many people came across. But I view my classroom this way. Okay. I'm up here. Okay. I'm kind of the person that happens to lead the group, but you are all out here. And I'm waiting for suggestions and some guidance for how we want to structure the course in terms of what makes most sense for you. So I've been around enough to know a lot of different kind of business structures, business styles, business organizations. And so I tend to be nimble, shall we say, in thinking about how accounting might affect the organ or the venture that you're considering. So I view this as a collaboration, and that gets you to my teaching styles. And so this is my philosophy, and it's built on this idea of improvisation. First thing I want to do is create a welcome learning environment. You can always talk to me. You can always conjure me up with an email, and I'll be glad to answer any questions at any time. I don't necessarily have formal online office hours, but I'm more of a if you need something as an individual or as a group, just let me know a time. We'll get together and talk about it. But we have to make an impact. We need to stay in the moment. So whatever's happening in the moment, we need to stay focused on that. So one of the things I'll look for as we interact via Zoom is that we're all staying in the moment, that we work together, we collaborate. I don't view this as teams. I view this as ensembles, where we come together for short periods of time, then we vanish, if you will, ready to be put together in some other configuration later. So it's kind of a flash group kind of thing. I want to make sure we support mistakes. You know, the best way that we can do things to learn is to learn from our mistakes. And so that's never changed since people started making square wheels instead of round wheels. Square wheels, one of the great first mistakes. But nonetheless, a lot of that is dependent on this idea of maintaining your self view. And so we have fears of making mistakes. Not in here, we don't. Listen to understand. It's really important that we take the time to listen to other people, listen to understand instead of listening simply to respond. And then ultimately seed control. Know when it's best to fall back. And so we all need to think about that. You know, I need to fall back at times when you all are leading. You may need to fall back at times to hear me out when I'm presenting an idea. So we'll have that kind of give and take as we go along. I told you about colors. Here's another version. Okay, so uh, the Patone people in their color wisdom said these are the colors for 2021, yellow and gray. I don't know. It's certainly different than the ones I had. I can't decide if I like it or not. But ultimately, the bottom line for me is this idea of why will the class be better? Because you are in it. Okay. It's not about me. It's about what you bring to the table and how you share with everybody else. And so every class is unique and distinct. It all has, each one has its own personality. And so what I'd like to think of is, okay, what would we miss out on if you're not here physically or mentally? I certainly understand if you can't be here every class period, because your lives ultimately the situation are not your own. You're trying to do an MBA program where you have so many other demands on your time. But when you're here, okay, uh, I'd like to make sure that you're engaged. So leave your cameras on and stay focused. Stay focused with me, because what would we miss if you weren't there? That's the thing that I think everybody will all be diminished if I don't have you with me. Finally, I want you to think about how good do you want to be. Um, as they say, you may come into this thing thinking accounting is boring. The question is, how can you maximize it for your future use? So that's what we're after here. And the feedback, I'll try to give feedback in three different ways. One is encouragement. Two is formative in terms of coaching. And the other one is summative, technically, which is evaluating. Okay. These, I think, this one in particular is most important. This one, I don't really like putting people into a box. A high pass, that really isn't going to matter in your career. But nonetheless, there will be a little bit of that. Rules of the road, thanks to Aretha Franklin, it's all about respect. And so come to class on time, keep your cameras on. I can tell if you're texting or having side conversations. Some of those are unavoidable, but try to stay with me. All I'm asking for is 50 minutes at a time. So even if we happen to go a little bit longer than 50 minutes, I'll always give you a break in our sessions after every 50 minutes, because that's the maximum time of focus I think that we can have at any one shot. So all I want is your best for 50 minutes. And I always like to finish my welcome to class with this. You know, it's dangerous to make everybody go forward on the same road, and worse, to measure others by yourself. Okay? The course is an individual course where everybody makes a contribution. But don't try to measure how you're doing or others by what you're doing. We're doing the best we can in this context, and hopefully that creates a great course. Anyway, uh, when we come up with questions, we're glad to answer them. But for now, that's welcome to the course, and I hope you found it a little bit different, perhaps, than some of the others. Take care. See you later.